We are going to discuss TCP IP model in these visuals. We have discussed OSI model in our previous visuals. We are going to discuss another model. This model is known as TCP IP model. Well, this model was published by DARPA in year 1970. TCP IP model, also known as Department of Defense model. We have discussed 7 layers of OSI model. At this stage, we have a good understanding of these 7 layers. We have covered OSI model and data encapsulation, and there we understood how these layers are involved while communicating. TCP IP model performs same like how OSI model does, but there is a difference. OSI model consists of 7 layers, whereas TCP IP model consists of 4 layers. TCP IP model layers have got different names. Working of TCP IP model are same comparing to OSI model. Well, let's look at layers of TCP IP model. Here are. It is process application. Now this is the top layer of TCP IP model. This layer performs the function of OSI model's top 3 layers. You can see application, presentation and session layers. Now this layer of TCP IP model is known as process layer or application layer of TCP IP model. Host to host. This layer is similar to transport layer of OSI model. There are 2 types of connections which are used to deliver the data. This layer consists of TCP and UDP. We have discussed both these connection types in detail in our previous visuals while discussing data encapsulation. Well, this layer is known as host-to-host layer of TCP IP model. Internet. We have discussed network layer of OSI model. Under network layer, function of routing is performed. The process of putting source and destination IP addresses is performed under this layer. We have also discussed IP headers in detail. This layer of TCP IP model performs same function what network layer of OSI model does. This layer is known as internet layer of TCP IP model. Network access. We have discussed data link layer of OSI model. Delivering the data to the destination system within local area network is the duty of data link layer. We have also discussed physical layer. Through physical layer like cable, the data is transferred in form of zeros and ones reaching the destination system. The functions of both these layers is performed by single layer of TCP IP model. This layer is known as network access layer of TCP IP model. Now you just memorize the names of layers of TCP IP model. If you have gone through our previous visuals which are discussed so far, then you'll feel no problem to understand the function of these layers. Well, TCP IP is also referred to as Internet Protocol Suite. Internet Protocol Suite provides protocols which are used for networks and internetworks. As you can see these layers, each layer provides protocols which are used for networks and internetworks. This is the reason we are discussing TCP IP model. We will go to each layer and discuss protocols it has. Let's start from application layer of TCP IP model. Now you can see list of protocols. There are 2 lists. One list contains protocols which use TCP and other list contains protocols which use UDP. These are all applications. Then why there are two lists? These are application and must be in one single list. Well, let me tell you why some application listed under TCP and some applications listed under UDP. Well, these all protocols work under application layer of TCP IP model. When these applications travel down and reach transport layer, which is host to host layer in TCP IP model, these applications then have to choose a connection which delivers the data. And we know that there are two types of connections under host to host layer. These are TCP and UDP. This is why the applications are divided into two lists. Well, the applications which are listed under TCP use TCP, and those applications which are listed under UDP use UDP. Well, these connection types then delivers the data. Some protocols use both connection types, like you can see DNS, it is listed in both lists. Well, these applications are cleared now. Now, another thing which is new for you. Each application is written with a number, as you can see, telnet with 23 and so on. These are not numbers, actually these are port numbers. If you remember TCP header fields and UDP header fields, you will find source port field and destination port field in those headers. These are the port numbers which fill those port fields. As you can see, each application is provided a specific port number. These applications are always used with these specified port numbers. These port numbers are assigned to these applications by IANA. It means Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. Well, we have discussed these assigned port numbers. There are number of ports used for networking and internetworking. These ports are divided into two types. One type of ports are those which we have just discussed. Other type of ports are known as ephemeral ports. If you remember data encapsulation process, when the data travels down to transport layer, the data is loaded in TCP header and becomes the segment. In TCP header, there are two fields of port. One is source port and other is destination port. Well, the source port field will add the port of the application, for example, HTTP, etc. But the question is, what port will be added to the destination port field? The answer is a port from ephemeral ports. These ports are used for temporarily. When the communication session ends, these ephemeral ports can be used again. Ports from 1024 to 65535 are used for this purpose, and these are the ports which are known as ephemeral ports. Well, this is how ports are used. Now let's get back to application layer. Well, there are number of applications which use TCP and UDP, but we have mentioned these applications according to CCNA objectives. Let's start discussing these applications one by one. We are starting from TCP and from Telnet. Well, Telnet uses TCP. The port number 23 is assigned to Telnet by Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. Telnet means teletype network. Well, a client system remotely accesses another system using Telnet. By getting such access, different tasks can be performed. Routers and switches can be accessed by using Telnet. Telnet access is based on command line. Well, Telnet functions on emulation softwares like by using its commands. Under Linux operating system, Telnet is used on terminal, console, and there are more emulations there. For Windows environment, DOS emulation provides use of Telnet. While using Telnet, security is an issue. When we access routers and switches using Telnet, we enter usernames and passwords to log in. All this information obviously are entered on Telnet. The information remains same as we enter. Where security issue comes? Well, with the help of network analyzer softwares like Wireshark etc., if traffic is analyzed, you will find some important information like usernames and passwords in plain text. Now SMTP, here it is. SMTP uses TCP also. The port number 25 is assigned to SMTP by Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. Well, SMTP means Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Electronic mails are sent through SMTP. Well, when a person sends an email to another person, how it process? Let me tell you. When a person sends an email, first it reaches mail server. Mail server then sends this email to mail transfer agent. After that, the mail transfer agent then sends this email to receiving mail transfer agent. Well, after that, this email is sent to mail delivery agent. Through mail delivery agent, it finally reaches its destination. This is how the electronic mail is sent. Well, before going to discuss HTTPS, we are going to discuss HTTP first, then we will back to HTTPS. Here it is. Now, HTTP uses TCP also. The port number which is assigned to HTTP is 80. Well, HTTP means Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Through HTTP, different resources can be accessed. In simple, HTTP establishes a relationship between user and a server. HTTP establishes such a relationship using URL, Uniform Resource Locator. Accessing a website on internet is an example of HTTP. Now let's move towards HTTPS. Back to HTTPS actually. Now it uses TCP also. The port number which is assigned to HTTPS is 443. Well, it means Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. HTTPS works same like HTTP. But what it does in addition? Well, HTTPS provides secure connectivity. If you notice, like surfing on internet, some URL starts with HTTPS. If you open sites like paypal.com, you will find URL beginning with HTTPS on the address bar. Now let's move towards DNS, and here is a scenario to understand DNS. Well, DNS uses both connection types. The port number assigned to DNS is 53. DNS means Domain Name System. Well, on internet, different services are represented by IP addresses. These are public IP addresses. We will discuss whole IP addressing concept in later visuals. If you notice, whenever we use internet and accessing any website, we enter its domain name. We enter domain name in browser, but these websites are represented by IP addresses on internet. Well, DNS resolves these domain names into IP addresses. How's that? Well, when we enter a domain name in a browser and hit enter, it is DNS which resolves that entered domain name into IP address. Well, DNS also resolves host names. Let me show you. Here it is. Now, but it must be configured first. We will configure DNS server in later visuals for resolving host names. Well, why DNS is used? It is simple, due to its services. Actually, to remember IP addresses is difficult, and there is not few IP addresses, there are number of IP addresses. This is the reason DNS is used. Well, let's move towards FTP. Well, FTP uses TCP also. The port number 21 is assigned to FTP. FTP means File Transfer Protocol. FTP is used for transferring the data between different computers. FTP, as its name implies, now there are different ways for transferring the data, but FTP is considered the smart one because larger data can be transferred easily using FTP. Access to FTP server can be restricted. Well, for example, if you restrict the access of FTP server so that only authorized users can access the server, mostly it happens for transfer important data. FTP can be used in web browsers just like how HTTP is used. Well, there are different softwares which supports FTP. Now we have discussed HTTP, now we are moving towards SSH. Now it uses TCP also. It is assigned port 22. It means secure shell. Secure shell performs almost same functions what Telnet does. Secure shell actually considered as the replacement of Telnet due to drawbacks of Telnet. We have discussed earlier in these visuals that Telnet sends important information like username and password etc. in plain text, whereas Secure Shell encrypts such important information. It uses public key cryptography to secure such important information. It is recommended to use Secure Shell clients for accessing routers and switches. There are some Secure Shell clients which are used to access the routers and switches. These are PuTTY and another one is Teraterm. Well, these were the applications which belong to TCP. Now let's move towards UDP applications, and there we are starting with SNMP. Here it is. Well, SNMP uses UDP. It is assigned port 161. SNMP means Simple Network Management Protocol. SNMP is used for monitoring and administering network devices. For this purpose, SNMP agents are employed on these network devices. Now let's move towards DHCP. Here it is. Now, well, DHCP uses UDP also. DHCP means Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Well, port number 67 is assigned to DHCP. When we design a network, setting clients, installing and maintaining server system, well, we have to configure IP addresses so that a network can be established between these systems. We have two options for configuring IP addresses on server and client systems. First option is to configure static IP addresses on each client system according to server settings. If you have few clients, then you can do this, but let's say you have 50 clients or more, then it becomes very painful work to do. There is another way for IP configuration, which is DHCP. By using DHCP, you configure IP addresses and DNS server, etc. on server system. Here it is. Now, client system, on the other hand, get IP addresses from the server by sending broadcast requests while booting. These clients are assigned IP addresses from the IP address range which is configured on server system. Well, apart from getting IP addresses, the clients also get default gateway IP address, DNS server IP address, subnet mask, and etc. Well, DHCP is good choice even for small networks. We have discussed DNS. Now we're going towards TFTP, last application for UDP. Now the port which is assigned to TFTP is 69. It means Trivial File Transfer Protocol. Well, TFTP is file transfer protocol just like FTP, but TFTP features are very limited as compared to FTP. TFTP is used for uploading and downloading files. The size of such files is small. Well, there is no security feature in it. TFTP is used for installing iOS images on routers and switches, and for backing up iOS images and configuration files, etc. But this is what application layer of TCP IP model contains. Now let's discuss protocols of host to host layer of TCP IP model. Now there are two protocols under this layer. These are TCP and UDP. We have discussed these protocols in detail, including header fields, advantages, etc. We have discussed applications a bit earlier. Those applications, when travel down to this layer, those applications then choose the protocol which is used by them and then start transporting the data. This is what we have understood. Now there is another thing which I did not discuss about TCP and UDP. It is a difference actually. So let's start discussing that difference. Well, you can see TCP and UDP headers. TCP provides flow control, acknowledgement of data, etc. And what UDP provides is not much. While transporting the data, TCP has to fill all these fields, and UDP also. TCP has more fields than UDP, so it will take more time to fill these fields, although it is reliable way of transporting the data. Where UDP has less fields than TCP, so it will take less time to fill its fields. Now in this case, UDP transfers the data faster than TCP because of what both these protocols provide. Keep this point in mind. Well, we have discussed applications earlier. These applications provide services. Well, these applications then use TCP or UDP to transport their services. Let's discuss some different services. For example, if someone requests voice or video services like voice chat and video chat, these are the real-time applications and they need to be delivered fast. This is where UDP considered. Now, when TCP transports the data, it also maintains the order of data. When TCP transports the data, it marks the data so that the data is arranged according to the markings of TCP. TCP does arrange the data. This is the disadvantage for real-time applications. For example, I am voice chatting with my friend and I said hello, then I start talking to him and my voice session is transferring using TCP. For example, the hello which I said has passed few seconds and then hello arrive. This is not good. This is where UDP is good. UDP does not care about the order of data. If I were using UDP for transferring the voice, that hello would be ignored. Same is the case with video sessions. This is the impact of voice over IP or video over IP on the networks. This is which has to be discussed. We have completed our talk on host to host layer. Let's discuss internet layer protocols. Let's move back. Well, here it is now. Well, ICMP, here it is. Well, ICMP means Internet Control Message Protocol. ICMP performs its task using IP. It can be said that ICMP is a part of IP. ICMP is used for checking networking problems. There is a tool which is known as ping. Ping uses ICMP echo requests and ICMP echo responses for performing such tasks. Now I have shown you IP header. Let's see it again. Here it is. Now you can see the field protocol type. ICMP uses protocol number 1 for this field. If we want to check the connectivity of any host, we'll just send pings to the IP of that host. It will respond if it is working. If it does not respond, the ping request will be timed out. The activity of pinging host is very active. ICMP has its importance in networking. Well, now let's move back to main. Here is ARP. Well, ARP means Address Resolution Protocol. Here it is. Now, ARP finds the MAC address of non-IP address. We have discussed that for LAN, the data is transmitted using source and destination MAC addresses, whereas for sending data across the network, IP addresses are placed of source and destination systems. If data is to be sent on local area networks, so ARP first resolves the MAC address of the destination system. Well, this is how Address Resolution Protocol ARP is used. Now, reverse ARP. Well, what we have discussed for ARP, reverse ARP is the reverse of ARP. Reverse ARP finds the IP address of the non-MAC address. Reverse ARP retrieves the IP address from the database. So for this, reverse ARP requires a server which maintains such database. The MAC address is configured manually on such servers. Mostly we use DHCP for configuring the IP addresses. Reverse ARP is not used. DHCP uses better features than reverse ARP. Here it is, IP. Now we have discussed IP version 4 and IP version 6 headers in our previous visuals. Now we are going to discuss IP version 4 in detail in upcoming visuals and IP version 6 also. Well, these are the protocols belong to internet layer. Let's start discussion on our final layer, which is network access. Here it is. Now, network access layer performs data link layer and physical layer functions under single layer. These are the protocols which work under network access layer. At top, here it is Ethernet. We have discussed Ethernet in detail. Just recall, we have discussed that Ethernet describes MAC sublayer of data link layer and physical layer. Ethernet functions on both these layers. We are discussing network access layer protocols. Now it must be understood that Ethernet provides a method for transmission of data on local area network and media through which the data transmits. Thus it performs network access layer functions. Token ring, here it is. Now here it is, token ring. Well, 802.5 standard, which is also referred to as token ring, is a protocol of this layer. Now IEEE 802.4, well, this standard fiber distributed data interface works under this layer. Well, this is the end of this visuals. We have discussed TCP IP model in detail. Now if you feel any problem, you can just replay these visuals and be prepared for upcoming visuals. Thank you.